Hey everybody! Guess what? It's Higurashi time. We're here to talk about Arc 2 of Higurashi called Watanagashi, aka the Cotton Drifting Arc, aka Mion's Question Arc. So, just like we did last time, we're going to start off with kind of a no spoiler kind of reaction. How did we all feel overall about this arc? And then we're going to go into more of the spoilery stuff. So, without further ado, we've got a bunch of rowdy folks in here. We've got ourselves an indestructible cat.
Hello.
We've got Alara High.
Heyo.
We've got Maku.
Hello.
Staghorn.
Hello.
Talsriel.
Hello.
Jan.
Hi.
And 2578916.
Life is truly fragile.
Alrighty, so I guess I'll start it off. This arc, it had some of the highest highs and the lowest lows. I'm debating starting it off with the low, but I think I'll start it off with the high. I started it off with the low last time. Let's do the high. Let's all get high.
Yeah.
I think that this was a fucking roller coaster. Much like the last arc was, but this arc was like, oh man, it has some of the most interesting like character moments that I've seen in this story so far, and supposedly there are more to come. But some of the visuals, some of the implications, a lot of the kind of, sorry, I just got a DM that I need to check out later. But yeah, it's fascinating. And the coolest thing about it is that I predicted it like immediately. We get to meet a couple new characters, and we get to know a few more of our characters more so than we did before. I think that overall the story, it's fascinating how well written this is, because I feel like in a lot of stories you have like the twist, you know, and it's the twist that is the thing that makes you, that, you know, is kind of the draw, like kind of an M. Night Shyamalan-esque thing, or like, you know, why are you watching this if not to experience the turmoil of the twist and what the twist does? The visual novel is like twist after twist after like hint, implications. No, I don't even think that you probably couldn't spoil this, because there's just so much that's interesting that's going on, so many characters that you just want to know more about. You know, it's really, really interesting how this is layered. It's really like, just, I think I figured out the twist like I said at the beginning of this, but like, I could be fucking wrong. There are so many different ways that this could go, but also, even if I figured that one out, there are so many more questions. It's so much layered on top of each other, and it's just a good time. So keeping with that kind of positive kind of idea of how this impacted us. Did anyone else have positive feelings about it and want to talk about it?
It had some certified girl boss moments.
Absolutely.
I think this one is probably my favorite arc in the series.
Oh, okay.
Which I admit a large part of it's probably because of bias, because it's the one that introduces my favorite character in the series. So
let me get, is that Shion?
yes, I'm very biased towards her.
Oh yeah, no, she is fantastic.
Yeah, Shion's a great character. Coincidentally, my second favorite is Mion. So
oh, well, there you go.
Actually, Bob, I have a question for you.
Is it not spoilery? Maybe we'll revisit it.
It's very, I'd say it's mild spoilers, but spoilers all the same.
Hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it. Go ahead.
I will say that one of the things I like about this chapter in particular is that it has a gimmick, and its gimmick is basically, do you know these characters? And I think that's really good.
Yeah. Or are you? I'm not gonna say it. That would be too spoilery. But yeah. Anyone else have any more positive things to say? There are a lot. I love the character writing. The character writing is so good.
Oh yeah. I think one of the things I've laughed at or that I found the funniest in a while is I don't know if I could really put into words why it tickles me so much, but the curry making competition.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I love that. What's the teacher's name? I forget her name.
Chie Sensei.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love her. Like, I was playing a little bit of the intro of chapter 3, and like, I love how like absolutely focused on curry she is, and just if anyone badmouths it, it's like she can hear it like a dog. She's got a dog's hearing for like being able to tell when someone's shitting on curry.
Fun fact about Chie, actually. You might have seen her portrait in the third one, and I know it's not in the second one, but her design is basically based off another visual novel, Tsukihime. She is one-for-one seal from Tsukihime.
Oh, okay.
That tracks, yeah. He actually, Ryukishi got the design for Rena from Lena from Final Fantasy V.
I heard about
really?
that. Yeah. Isn't Ryukishi 07's name a reference to Final Fantasy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, actually, maybe.
Yeah,
I was trying to go into how.
I believe it's his
how,
favorite class is Dragon Knights, and Ryukishi
Yeah,
is...
it's Dragoon. Ryukishi means Dragoon, and 07 is Lena, if you put it to numbers in Japanese.
Well, technically it's Reina, but that's also right.
Cool. Did anyone else, I thought, did we cut off someone who was trying to talk?
Yeah, that was me.
I'm so sorry.
Oh no. That's, I mean, there's a lot of people in the call. But yeah, just like general like thoughts, non-spoilers on the arc. I really enjoy that. Just like going through the first 2 arcs. Watanagashi is like such a different approach from Onikakushi.
Yes.
Like they said in the I forgot what it's called, but the after talk bonus section after the first one, they said like, okay, the next chapter is going to focus on the village's history, and it sure did. And it's just like Onikakushi is just like stuff is happening. It's while Keiichi's like going nuts, and then like Watanagashi is just like a completely different like approach from that. It's a completely different vibe, and it's like a complete. It's not. I mean, it's not. It's still the same setting. It's still the same characters, and it is like on the base level. It's still the same mysteries, but it's telling you so many other things. The vibe is completely different from the first chapter. It's really fun just to like look how much they contrast, and like you see, especially like Rena, you see she's like a completely different character in Watanagashi from the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that's at the same time, like, I can't imagine it done any different way, because starting with Rena's question arc, Onikakushi, it's like you kind of need that kind of obfuscation of everything that's going on, so that you get a really good idea of who these characters are to the best that you can with your limited time with them, and then everything just goes topsy-turvy, and then you don't know what to believe. And then you kind of follow it up with this arc where it's like, wait, what is happening? Why are these characters doing these things? Why are we here? But we'll get to that. We'll get to that question here in a sec. But yeah, so the other thing that I would say, the kind of real, I said it on stream, and I'll say it again when I stream the ending on Friday of the Cotton Drifting arc, Watanagashi. I almost stopped playing when I got to the festival in that was rough. Like, as much as I love this visual novel, as much as I love the characters and all this stuff, I know anime is anime. I get it. Like, I've dealt with anime in the past. Trust me, I know. But like, it's so off-putting and disturbing when Go ahead.
I will say that you're through the worst of it. I don't think it gets nearly as bad.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah, I concur. The shit's rough. Like,
Okay.
It gets worse in the third arc. After that, I'd say it's smooth sailing. But
there is a particular bit and person in the third arc who I remember the first time I read, I put it down for like a week and just I need to take a breather after this.
Oh. I mean, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I meant more in the sense of, anime tropes and being and how it treats underage children. I say
that's also what I mean here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started reading through these visual novels like when the sale started, and I have been putting off starting the third arc for a couple of weeks now because of a particular character, and not the character that we are supposed to hate, but the other character.
It's the same one I'm talking about. I'm positive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think we can probably.
I was watching it on a video. Sorry, by the way, I was watching it on a video playlist, and I think it just like fast forwarded a good, just until that character was off the screen.
I
But
think
yeah, so there is still some shit, and it's the reason I don't openly talk about enjoying this series, and I wish it wasn't there, but it's there.
Like that's like the reason I don't actively recommend this to people.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe like, after we're done with the VOD and stuff, it might not be a bad idea to just warn Bob explicitly.
I mean, we would have to have like content warnings for the next chapter in general, I would say.
Yeah.
And I guess
it deals with a lot of heavy themes.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there. But at the same time, like, it's tough because I recommend Silent Hill 2, like, to everybody. And that contains really challenging themes, really, really disturbing visuals and stuff like that. It can be very triggering. But for me, it's like you pushing through that is part of it. It's like there is a point, there is a purpose, to pushing through. With this, some of the stuff that's in there, I don't know if there's a purpose. I don't know if there's a point. I was kind of...
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It sucks. Like, some of it is there to be, like, critically examined, and then some of it is there just kind of like, Comic Cat pandering, which is...
Comic Cat and a bad sense of humor, I guess.
Yeah,
lots of stuff that has aged like milk.
Yeah.
Aged very poorly and was not good back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. For anyone who doesn't know, like, there is a part in the festival arc, where I say it's like anime stuff, but this is like even taking it a little bit further, where a 12-year-old child is described as unripe fruit. That should kind of let you know what you're dealing with. It's fucked. What's that?
I have a stupid question. Is that line voiced?
No.
Okay, that's what I was about to ask, because
it is censored. Yes, I learned this after the fact.
Okay, yeah. I would suggest going through whatever's else on like 0.4 or 0.5 or whatever they are, and
so for anyone who doesn't know what 25 bunch of numbers is saying,
the 7th mod has has like 5 versions of the script from different console releases, yes. And some of those censor stuff, some of them have stuff voice, some of them don't, and whatever, and a lot of the weird, creepy shit, not all of it is cut out on certain releases, so if you have higher numbers, then you skip some of that, or most of it, hopefully, and yeah, but there isn't really a perfect option.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And at some point, I want to go through with, like, scripts in hand and compare, like, 0.5 to 0.3 or whatever, and see what's specifically missing, because that's something that interests me, and the mod page doesn't specifically list lines.
Yeah.
Which annoys me a little bit, but
yeah, it's really weird because okay, so for anyone who's playing, if you're playing with 7th mod, which I highly recommend that you do if you're going to do it, if you hit F2, you can change the censorship level, and it goes from 1 to 5. I've been playing on 2, which is the default setting. I didn't realize until after that you can set it to like the max, and it'll actually, like, sometimes you'll come across stuff like I talked about in the last arc, in the last VOD, that there was some really weird shit about like Mion like trying to get Kaiichi to whip his dick out, which is kind of hilarious in retrospect. It was weird. It's weird. Don't get me wrong, but like compared to what happens in Arc 2, it's like, please just have these. Like, I can't with the thinking about marrying 12-year-olds shit. It's like, fuck, man, I can't. It's not funny. It's not cool. Like, anyway. So if you set it to censorship level 5, it'll not only get rid of the stuff that isn't. It'll get rid of that stuff that isn't voiced, but unfortunately, some of the things that happen that are not related to that in any way get censored as well. I don't know why. Why. What's that? Was someone trying to say something?
I was like umming out loud because I was thinking and trying to come up with a good explanation, but I'm not 100% sure what a good explanation is. It really just seems like whoever was running through on Matsuri for the PS2 version was like, okay, cut out the weird sex shit. Cut out all the weird horny anime garbage, or, like 90% of the weird anime garbage. But
and at the same
also,
time getting rid of like some of the more really interesting stuff that happens toward the end of this arc.
Some of the more direct historical references and such to actual history.
Yeah.
Some of the very overt political stuff.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. Yeah. Well, games can't be political. Come on. Like, what is this? Games aren't political. Get this shit out of here. I'm kidding, by the way. I know that doesn't go across.
I didn't know that the censors or that the F2 settings changed like the script and what you saw. I just thought it changed what lines were voiced and what lines weren't.
It shows what lines are there based on whether or not they're voiced, and whether or not they're voiced is a sign of whether or not they were included in the console version. Which essentially means whether or not they were censored for it.
I think if you set it all the way to the 5, which I think is the most censored version, you will just get only the stuff that is voiced and in the console version. It's not turning off or on the voices, it's turning off and on the corresponding text for
That's what I understood.
I wonder what 4 is in comparison, because I wonder if that would include like the direct political references, but
I would hope. But yeah, I've only seen.
I'm just not sure. Which is why I wish I had the exact scripts in front of me to compare.
I've only ever seen people recommend 2 or 5, like basically on or off.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why there's so many levels to it and not just whole script or censored script.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's weird.
Because there wasn't really like a single censored script, from what I understand. Different console releases included different amounts of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
because there's like a PS2 version, a PS3 port of that, which I think has a couple changes on top.
Gotcha.
There's a DS version, there's a Switch version.
Yep. And all of those have different amounts of stuff. And even before any of that, my understanding is that the difference between like option 1 and option 2 is stuff that wasn't actually cut out because of ports to other like systems, but stuff that was cut out in later releases at Comiket, because like I believe what it is that the first time like arc 1 or 2 or whatever came out, the first couple question arcs, there's even more repetition of like Kiichi thinking aloud to himself and just repeating some stuff in his head that stuff somebody just said to him. And so when it gets re-released in later, because the question arcs will bundle everything before that together, some of that stuff got cut out, but I understand option 1 is the first script, which lets you get full solid Snake Kiichi dialogue, and then 3, 4, 5 are console releases scripts, which is very funny. So yes, if you think about Kiichi repeating something stupid back to himself, remember that there could be more of that.
Mako, were you going to say anything?
Oh yeah, no, I was just thinking, when 25 was talking about the different console versions, I don't know so much about the later ports, but I know that the very first PS2 port of Higurashi actually like restructured the entire game and like made it a game with choices.
What?
And
it's actually super cool. And one of the things 07th mod does, well, it has choice in the sense that there's like 2 or 3 per arc or before them. and then based on what you make, it gives you either the Ryukishi version of that arc, or like an alternate one that diverges and has like a bad ending thing. And there's a couple of those.
Doesn't the PS2 version also have like a brand new final chapter that's different from the original final chapter?
Yeah, because I think the thing was that the actual 8th final chapter by Rikishi wasn't finished at the time or something, or it wasn't like close enough to being finished, so the console team like made their own. And weird thing is that I know people who really love that console version final arc.
Is that Higurashi Dice Killing arc?
No.
Okay.
That's like epilogue written by Rikishi. That's effectively art design.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like off. I don't have the exact list.
I see it. Rotation arc. Taira Mawashi?
That is... That's essentially a game over screen. It gives you that if you fail to make any choices that would give you any arcs. It gives you one where it shows you like the first hour. It shows you like the first arc of the first hour of the first arc, and then abruptly tells you everybody died.
Yeah, isn't it? That's kind of like, I think if I recall correctly, it gives you that if you as a player try to metagame and like actively steer away from like every possible choice that gives you an arc, it'll be like, oh, you're just trying to avoid every arc, game over.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Shit. I think.
Actually,
Gyro Mantis in chat said it's Miyotsukushi. Is Miyotsukushi?
Yep.
Miyotsukushi or whatever. That's the console version of Arc 8, console Arc 8. And I've actually heard really good things. I haven't read it myself, but I hear that there's
same here.
You like that one.
Yeah.
I
guess it's probably
like this is kind of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I don't know how much of like supplementary stuff that you'd want to go through regarding Higurashi, like once you're done with the core package, but I feel like going over to the at least Miyotsukushi and comparing and contrasting could be really interesting for a book club.
I mean,
agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. I think that the only one I'd call necessary as a bonus arc is Higurashi.
Yeah, so my original plan was to play the 4 question arcs, the 4 answer arcs, obviously, and then Higurashi, because that is the one that everybody like. The site that I'm using for this is the definitive guide ever for every Higurashi arc ever by rockinjima.org. Yeah, so I'm just looking at all of the, like, it's no spoilers. It's literally just like, here are the question arcs, here are the English like titles, here is the general like sort of Rena's arc, Mion's arc, etc., etc.
Yeah,
and
I'm looking at that list right now.
I've been told that Batsu Koishi penalty loving arc is bullshit, and to skip it, and to also skip Hiru Kawashi Daybreak arc, which is apparently based on the action game Higurashi Daybreak, which I don't know anything about that. It's
very silly. It's very silly.
So if anything, I'd do the alternate finale. But I'll do that after Dice Killing, Higurashi.
Yeah. Dice Killing, the alternate finale, and then anything else is fun. Like I hear Yoigoichi is really good. People like that one.
Oh, is that? Yeah, that's the
adaptation of manga arc of the same name, Beyond Midnight arc.
Yep.
Yeah.
That one's good.
People usually agree, like, oh, read Higurashi after that, and read Miyotsukushi after that, and then people will usually have like 2 or 3 favorites they'll also tell you to go read.
Yeah, there's like one that's kind of caught my attention, but it's really interesting, but it's interesting for reasons that would be mucho spoilers to talk about.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the spoilers for the Watanagashi.
So. I mean, you should probably talk about the arcs.
Yeah, so before we get into it, I'll just say right now, it's really tough to recommend this. If you do play it, I would recommend watching it on YouTube, a YouTube version where someone's cut out that anime bullshit, because it's just awful.
Or maybe 07th mod on 4 or 5, if that does enough.
That's what I was going to say, yes.
Yeah, one or the other.
One or the other. And apparently, like, we'll talk more about this in the 3rd arc, Tatarai or Goshi? I don't know.
Higurashi.
Tataragoshi, okay. Which is Arc 3. Apparently, people are mixed about, as you've heard right now on this VOD, that whether Arc 2 or Arc 3 is the worst. I've heard from many people that Arc 3 is pretty bad, and I've been given specific instructions on how to avoid the worst of it.
Okay.
Which I'll just say right now for reference, I've been told to keep censorship on level 5 and then turn it down to 2 after the festival.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Yeah, that sounds all right.
So if anyone's jumping into it, maybe try that. I'm gonna try that because
I feel like that might be good general advice for the earlier arcs as well.
Actually, yeah. Thinking about it now, yes, absolutely. And that's not even that was the worst. What we just talked about was the worst of this. There's other shit in here that I just remembered that we need to talk. Oh God. So anyway, I would recommend doing that. It really sucks because if that wasn't in there, I would 100% recommend going and playing these visual novels because they are what people say about them is true. I knew that people were really, really happy with these games because of the way that Ryukishi writes, the mysteries and stuff. There's stuff in here that I am blasting through this as fast as I can because I need to know what the fuck is going on. It's gripping. It's really gripping, and the characters, you just feel for them, and you want to have you want them to have the best life, and they don't always get it. So it's really tough because if you can find a YouTube video or do the 7th mod censorship thing, I would recommend going through it. But with that, we're going to go ahead and start talking about spoilers. So let's get right into it. Shion. Hi, Shion. How you doing?
So here's the question I wanted to ask you earlier.
Okay. Shoot.
Was the reveal that Shion and Mion are different people a surprise to you?
Here's the thing. It wasn't, and then it was. The way that the writing does it. See, I don't think that you could do this in an anime either. I watched the anime and it really kind of okay, they're clearly two different people. This is just whatever. But in the anime, it really kind of goes I'm sorry. In the visual novel, it really kind of goes oh shit. It would make sense if it's two people. Okay, so here's what happened with me. The first time I see them, and it's oh, they're clearly two different people. Her personality is completely different from Mion's. She could be faking it, but I doubt it. Why would they do that? Also, in the intro, they have them both there. And in the anime, they're both sitting across from each other with a very peculiar difference between the two, which we will talk about.
I will say one thing about the anime is that the times where Mion and Shion, when you're not sure which is which, the visual novel uses character writing to let you figure that out. Right. In the anime, they straight up give Shion's lines to Mion or Mion's lines to Shion, so it's just really hard to tell.
Complain about.
Yeah,
something I was about to complain about.
Yeah. Also, I need to talk to y'all. Was I just not paying attention, or when Shion came to Kaiichi's house, was that actually Mion pretending to be Shion? Because in the anime, it is.
That's for you to figure out.
I would say that it is.
At the very end.
But at the same time, what's that?
At the very end.
No, at the beginning. Remember when? I wasn't specific. I'm sorry. Remember right when you kind of learn when Kaiichi learns that Shion exists, and then he's kind of teasing her in front of Rena about working at what's the name of it? Angel Mort. And she kind of goes, no, what are you talking about? Anyway, I gotta go, I gotta run. And the entire time he's hungry because of I forget why. I think
it's because he lost the curry eating, the curry making thing.
And so he's super hungry, so he goes home and then he falls down on the floor, and then Shion shows up and gives him the bento box. and then he like scarfs it down. In the anime, it's like they straight up come out and say it, like that was actually Mion pretending to be Shion, when she did that. But in the visual novel, I guess it didn't really hit me until like, when I saw it in the anime, and I was like, wait, that totally makes sense. Why would Shion know that she, like, yes, she says that, Mion told me that you're hungry, but at the same time, like, oh, so you can just like, you live, how far away do you live, Shion? Like, you don't have a car. I guess you do. Oh wait, you do have the chauffeur shit.
Mm-hmm.
That could be either way. Oh man, it's a toss up. See, that's the thing. It's a toss up there. It's a toss up right there. But in the anime, it's just straight up like, no. This is how it is. This is clear cut.
That's also part of why I don't want to tell you when Mion is Mion or when Shion is Shion, because trying to figure that out is part of the mystery of this arc as well. So
yeah.
Yeah, I will say it's really fun to theorize like which one it could be in each scene. And if you are watching the anime might outright tell you that this is one of them or this is the other. And the anime is right a lot of the time, but it is also changing it a lot of the time because the anime is truncating so much that it's cramming. It's often combining different scenes, so it may say like, oh, this scene it definitely is Shion when it actually wasn't.
Yeah.
So it is right a lot of the time, but it does also change. So kind of don't rely on like the anime telling you that you might be right or wrong.
I'm also, I'm also a Silent Hill fan, so I'm completely familiar with like various canons. Like just because it's in a different medium doesn't mean that it is the exact same thing as the previous medium that it was in. Like you're talking to, like, I saw the Silent Hill movie and like, I'm like, okay, these things are separate. Like, let's not confuse the fucking, the canon.
So one scene in particular I want to ask you about is the one where the village comes to help Keiichi. I wonder what you think about that.
Now that you ask me, see, thinking of it in like without anybody asking me to think about it, it's like, okay, yeah, like I actually really like that. I like the idea behind it. It's also nefarious. It's also like I can see how this can be a problem like later on down the line, especially if you're approaching this from the standpoint of like, oh wait, it looks like Shion and Mion's, whose last name I forget,
Sonozaki.
So the Sonozakis are like basically the Yakuza, and they're like, muscling people, and in that specific instance, it was like, oh, this is why, there's kind of like a want to like, have like a power in numbers kind of thing, like group up and then we can take down whoever the fuck. It's kind of I was talking to Rachel about it and I was like, it's almost like communist. It's almost like everybody banding together, and which was very interesting in the context of the rest of the stuff that comes later. But like it now that you're asking me about it, now I'm like, fuck, you're asking me about it for a specific reason, aren't you? See, and if you're asking me about it for a specific reason, that makes the immediate thing that came to my head when you asked me pointedly about it, I was like, oh fuck, are they all infected with something? Because that's the underlying thing that's happening here. From the first arc, there's something going on with Keiichi. Something's happening to him where he's being incredibly fucking paranoid. And if you extrapolate that across the rest of the characters who are in that scene, it's like, wait, what is happening here? Like, is there like varying degrees of this? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. All I'll say is that I wasn't really thinking about it other than it was very interesting when I realized that, oh God, should we even talk about the ending right now? That scene plays into that scene heavily impacted my viewing of the ending, which helped me kind of figure out who was who in the final scene. I don't know. Should we just talk about it, or do we want to talk about anything else?
It is spoilers. So who is the culprit of this chapter, I guess, would be the way to phrase it.
All right. Do you want me to say it, or do we want to go around the horn? I've been talking for a while.
I would say you say it because I assume a lot of people here know the general gist of Higurashi, unless there's someone here who's following on with Bob.
I can volunteer that I have only seen up to Arc 3, Chapter 1 as of tonight.
Oh, then please, go ahead.
I guess I can say that, in my view, I think Mion of the two was the culprit, at least for now. My marker's on that she had the demon role, quote unquote, whether that's any manner of supernatural or if that's just the societal expectation, and that she's the one that, for whatever actual reason, I have certain doubts about the reason that she gave us for turning demon, as she phrased it. But I think Mion's the one that was the culprit this time.
It's so cool because it's like an amazing game of Among Us. It's who and I will say after that, I think the opposite. I think it's Shion. That's so cool that we came to completely different like ideas about what the fuck is going on here. Oh man, that's actually the fact that Ryukishi wrote in a way where you can really kind of view it as like whatever way you could find evidence for whatever theory like you want, and that's really hard to do. And it's very interesting. But yeah, I think it's Shion, and I'll tell you why. I've got a couple things that stick in my craw. Specifically, it was the ending where Shion is talking to Rena and Kaiichi, and she's going on and on and on, and the amazing scene where she's like, "I can show you my tattoo if you want," and Rena's like, "No, don't worry about it." She's like, "Thank you." It's like, "Oh, really? Okay, guys, we're not showing the fucking tattoo, the thing that would prove that it's fucking Mion and not Shion. Okay, I see how it is. But the thing for me was when sorry, I'm getting really like it makes me excited to like, you know, talk like I think that these specific things because for reasons, and it's like, oh, it's just fun.
I can only speak to myself, but hearing someone excited about something I like and theory crafting like this makes me grin ear to ear.
Yeah,
Speaking of,
capital D right now.
I guess I have another follow-up question for both you, Bob, and Talsreal. What are their motives? What is Mion's motives and what is Shion's motives?
Well, I didn't get to why the actual thing that made me think that it's Shion, and I'll do it real quick. It's the scene where the group gangs up on the three thugs who talked amazing. I loved the way that they were written, like their actual lines, like the words that they were saying, like they were stringing multiple words together, like slurring everything. It was very funny. But the reason why I think it's Shion is because Shion was the only one who knew about that. Shion was the one who came to Kaiichi's rescue. And in that final scene, when Mion, quotation fingers, is talking to Kaiichi and Rena, she specifically says, "Hey Kaiichi, you remember that time when you were ganged up on, where the gang members came up to you, and then the whole town banded together to defend you?" Yeah, it's kind of like that. Immediately, I'm like, wait, Mion doesn't know about that. Mion has no reason, like Shion has no reason to tell her about that other than, I don't know, she might have, maybe. But if you think about it from that point of view, then suddenly the entire ending makes sense. Suddenly, that's the cool thing. That's the amazing thing about the ending of this arc. If you can find evidence to make everything out to be demons. Like there are people who are dead who are walking around, like verifiably. But if you like, you know, think that it's Shion pretending to be Mion in that specific scene, everything flips around and suddenly it's all machinations of man. All of a sudden you've got multiple people doing their own disparate things, but then Shion at the center of it, and this is where I'll answer your question, Indestructible Cat. Shion is doing it because the same thing that happened to Kaiichi in Arc 1 is happening to her in Arc 2. Why? I don't know. That's the thing that I told myself to remember to talk about at the beginning of this. Because there is a moment in Oishi's car where out of nowhere they say something. Oishi says something to Kaiichi, and Kaiichi starts to remember something. And then, like, time stops, and his voice changes to someone else's voice. And I think it was... I don't know if it was Rena or Mion. I'm not familiar enough with their voices and their cadences to figure out who is who. But it was not Kaiichi's voice. It was someone else's voice. And suddenly it burst in. It was the weirdest fucking thing. I have no idea why that happened. But it was strange. And anyway, but yeah, so that's my theory is like something's happening to cause people to go insane. Something is happening on or around the Watanagashi and the festival. And it's causing certain people like Kaiichi in the first arc to be hyper paranoid about everything. And I think that theory also includes how and why the Rika and I keep wanting to say Satoko, because I just got to the first chapter of the third arc, and now my brain's all Satoshi. Like, my brain's completely Satoshi'd up. Like, holy shit, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Why is it? Anyway, I'm going fucking nuts. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, something's happening that's causing people to get hyper paranoid and violent. And I think that happened to Shion. So that's me. Towsreal, you wanna talk about?
Absolutely. So I guess the first thing is that my read is that the first times we meet quote unquote Shion, it was that Keiichi actually gets it right at first, and that Mion finally gets roped into working Angel Mort the first time, and that just happens to be the night Keiichi's dad decides he needs to go there and takes Keiichi with him, and then they run into each other, and Mion decides she's going to play Shion for that. And I think it's that one, and I also think the gang scene was Mion. I don't think that Keiichi actually meets Shion until the dessert phone call, and then the dessert day, in which Shion is specifically pretending to be Mion, clumsy, not used to this, encouraging Keiichi to first attempt to fight directly on her behalf, which goes terribly, and then call in the club members to actually roust out the real nasty people. So, I mean, and I also have thoughts about the gang scene, but I'll try to keep on the Mion versus Shion train for the moment.
Sure.
So then Shion kind of takes over at the dessert scene, and then we lead up to the scene where Keiichi actually finds out that, why yes, despite his continued insistence that they are the same person over and over, and this was a very strong hint to me that they were really two people, he then runs into Mion at the gate at the toy store, going to buy Mion the doll, except it was Shion, and his carefully laid plans to make up for that doll incident just blow up. From there, I think
which was very funny.
Go ahead.
Which was very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I love that scene.
Right. I mean, from there, I kind of think Mion and Shion are themselves as presented up until things really start falling apart, really through the festival and the sneaking into the sacred warehouse, and then people start disappearing and all of that. one of the major pieces of evidence that I would have that Mion was the culprit is that in the late call, when Keiichi finally realized, hey, Shion, or whoever's in Shion's role in your theory, but Shion has been disappeared, and that Shion never had the chance to talk to Mayor K about the events, because Mayor K was in the hospital and otherwise elsewhere all day until he was ready to get disappeared. During that phone call, quote unquote Shion on the phone talks about everyone going into the sacred warehouse, but they didn't. Tomitake didn't go in. He broke the lock. He absolutely has moral culpability in the people getting in, but he never actually went in. And that's something that everyone who was there would know.
Interesting. See, I'm coming at it also from, I have this habit of like knowing the solution and working back. So that's one of the ways that I come to the idea that it's Shion at the bottom of this, because at the very, very end, unless see, that's the other thing. Like, there are so many like unreliable narrators in this narrative that it's really hard to nail down anything. But if we are to believe Oishi, if we are to believe this horrible, horrible weirdo who brings porno to someone who just got stabbed in the fucking gut with a butcher knife, fuck the police. If we are to believe this fucking weird man, the person who died by jumping out of the window was Shion. That was Shion. And the way that I think that they were able to specifically say that was Shion, and then the girl who was found in the ritual chamber who died was Mion, was because of the tattoo. And I think that the tattoo is the tell, obviously. Like, we know that from the tips, and if you watch the anime, you know that, because that's the thing I was referencing earlier. You have Shion and Mion at the beginning, and Mion has the tattoo, the like Yakuza tattoo on her back. And then Shion does not, because Mion is older. She's the one who's the head of the family. So I think that what happened was when the very end, when Shion jumped out of the window, or supposedly Mion, they were having a fight. And I think that also plays into my theory that something is happening that's driving Shion nuts. She's being paranoid. She was already sort of talking to herself when she stabbed Keiichi. She was already kind of doing her own, like in her own head and doing her own thing. And I think that the argument that their bodyguard heard in that scene before she jumped out of the window was her arguing with herself, because they would have the same voice. So I think the way that they were able to tell when she died who she was exactly was because of the tattoo. Shion does not have the tattoo. That's kind of a known thing. So she wouldn't. This is Shion. So I think that they were able to determine Mion was the person who died in the ritual chamber because she had the tattoo. And if you work backward from that, you realize that, wait, Mion has been dead. So the only person that is able to do any of this stuff at the end is Shion. And in that moment, like when Shion pretending to be Mion beckons Keiichi outside, which, fucking Keiichi, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Holy crap. Like, I was saying this earlier, but I love, like, he is such a lovable idiot. He is such a fucking dumbass, adorable dumbass. Because I get why, like, myself, I'm like, you know, it's one of those people screaming at the screen during the horror movie, like, don't do that, don't separate, you know, don't do these things. But it totally makes sense that he would go out there because he just wants his friend back. He just wants to have fun and like do the club shit like they used to, and he wants to give her that fucking doll. He wants to make it right. And then he gets stabbed in the fucking gut by Shion, because that's the only person who it could be at that point. And if you work backward from that, and if you take the information that was given to us in Arc 1, she is very clearly the one who's kind of going nuts with paranoia. She is kind of the one you also see her with those eyes at the very end. So I think that was a really big hint. Also, GXU says he still doesn't hold a grudge. Yeah. And then even though he's dying on the fucking ground in a pool of his own blood, he doesn't think to be like, why did you do like try to fight back or anything. He goes for the doll that he dropped, and he tries to wipe his own blood off of it. That, I don't care. Like, Kaiichi, you can do all the stupid shit you want. That proves that you are a real one. Like, I am officially, like, Kaiichi is cool. I wasn't sure about it, but I just remembered the other shit. Fuck, I don't know. I'm back in the middle. But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, if you extrapolate backwards and kind of work with that, the only reason that makes any of the plot makes sense is if it's Mion who is the one in the jail cell. She's the one who's kind of the person who's really being fucked up here, having Shion bring people down there and then killing them. Now, I did want to ask. Sorry, I'm getting too far ahead. How does everyone feel about that? What do people who know what's going on in the story? What do they think about whether it's Mion or Shion? I'm kidding. Don't spoil it. But I'm kind of trying to get.
I was going to ask how you think the hospital scene figures into that.
Oh, clearly something happened. I think that. I say clearly. I'm being snobby with my fucking theories, but by the way, I could totally be wrong, and that would be great. Like, I would love being wrong. Because that just means that, like, oh god, it could totally be like Tal'Ril is saying, and it, like, Ryukishi's playing like fucking 5D chess over here, and like traps upon traps and fucking Satoko style. But anyway, the Master Trapper. But I think that the ending is more like, okay, hear me out. I know I'm using this as a crutch, but is Kaiichi did he somehow get infected at the very end of that, and that's why he's seeing that shit? Or he lost his mind and is seeing things? I don't think that. I'll be flat out. I don't think what Kaiichi is seeing is real. It's real to him, but I don't think that it is necessarily a real thing. It is not a thing that if the nurse were to come into that room, they would just see Kaiichi kind of losing his mind. I don't think that what he was seeing was physically, like, there was no person hiding under the bed, in my opinion. That would be fucking cool if there was. If this whole thing takes on a twist of like, oh, it actually is demons. Demons everywhere. Oops, all demons. Like, that would be kind of fucking kick-ass. But for me, for where I'm going with it, I think that there's an explanation for that. And I think that he's gotten infected with whatever Shion got infected with. And that was a sign that he was seeing that stuff. I think because he was seeing it just the same previously. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I have a question. If no one else has. Oh, please go ahead.
I mean, I'm inclined to concur that it's, at least in some sense, not real. Either A, like you said, it's the infection theory. B, Keiichi's just hit sanity 0 and he's seeing it because he's just lost it, having to deal with all of the stuff that Oishi just dropped on him. Or C, it's finally a haunting. And really, my current position is that I think supernatural stuff might be involved. Like I said, I had a pin for that gang confrontation earlier that we can get back to. But at present, I don't think the supernatural is causing any of the killings.
right
at present.
I think that something. Oh, it's also funny because I said this on the stream that I did for the final 2 chapters of Arc 2, but I'll say it here. My opinion of the hospital has completely reversed. I think that what's her name? It's the lady who wanted to go and look at the sacrifice tools. Takano. I think that she's an outlier. I think that she's okay. I'm just gonna say it. She's a villain. Like, she's the main culprit, in my opinion. And the reason I think that is because the only way that it makes sense for her to be alive and walking around when her body when Oishi says that the body that was burned was actually burned like days ago, the only way that makes sense with my current like line of theories where there is really no like really crazy supernatural stuff like you were just saying, Talsriel, like, or at least the way that it factors into killing people. I think that she faked her death, and I think that the vanishing stuff still applies to her. Either she faked her death or someone faked her death. But right now, I think she's super fucking sus. Like, if we would vote her out, if I had anything to say about it, she would be jettisoned out of that fucking airlock immediately. She is, she no good, no bueno.
She's too girl boss. Is too suspicious.
Smalgora mocks you.
I saw Yashiro-sama event.
I think just one last point in the is it Mion or Shion thing is I think it's really great that you can actually find motive and like evidence for either of them, especially going back to the connections between this and the previous art in Onikashi. Because in Onikashi, you saw Keiichi go through the like losing his mind and doing things that he maybe wouldn't have done otherwise. And in this arc, or in Onikashi, a big like point for why Keiichi, a big sticking point in Keiichi's mind as to his like behavior was like the paranoia about what's going on with the town, what's going on with the murders.
Absolutely.
And in this arc, Keiichi is given a lot of the same information about the village's dark history, the murders and stuff. And his reaction is just, oh, that's really scary. I'm sure there's an explanation for it though. So you can kind of like map that same behavior onto either Mion or Shion as well. Not the same like motive or stuff, but like, oh, it might, if you just like think of it rationally, it might be a silly motive. But also we saw Keiichi not really acting very rationally over a motive that might have been a bit silly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that's the really, like, I'm really excited for Silent Hill F, y'all. Like, if we have this much to play with, like, and we're not even halfway through this freaking game, this is impressive. This is like a lot of really intricate, really well thought out plotting that is not only meant to like kind of infer happenings, but also really dives into the characters and their motivations, like you were saying, in addition to providing evidence of all of these things in minute quantities, depending on your viewpoint of it. It's really, really like this is why I need to get to the bottom of this, because I just need to be. I want to be one of the people. I want to be one of y'all who has already played all this, and just I want to watch someone like try to map it out and figure it out. This is really fun. Like, and that's the other thing.
I gotta tell you, man, it's amazing.
I've been sitting here grinning ear to ear, biting my tongue so hard during most of this.
We're gonna have a fun time when we do the final.
Oh yes.
Oh,
actually, there is something else. Lonely Mudkip in the chat just said something that I was also
that was actually going to be my follow-up question to Bob.
Hoping to mention as a wild theory, and so I guess kind of extending my timeline out to past the end game where Keiichi goes down into the murder dungeon. So for one thing, I wasn't myself fully certain whether the cops knew about the demon tattoo and knew which one was which. That was one of my theories in defense of, well, how could they miss Mion being in the pit versus Shion being the one that fell out of the residential building? But as Lonely Mudkip said, and this was something that occurred to me, what if their positions switched after Keiichi gets knocked out on the torture bed, if somehow Shion manages to push Mion into the pit instead of despite Mion having been the culprit up till then. But then that then that really gets interesting motive wise, because then it would have to be Shion that stabs Keiichi, I would think, if she's the one that survived, and we're mostly leaving wild supernatural stuff out of it.
Right. And, I was feeling like this earlier, but I'll just say it now. I don't think that there's enough information to really kind of definitively say it's like one person over the other. I think that it's fun to kind of dig to plant my flag in this theory that it was Shion the whole time, because it's fun to argue in that way. But also, like, I'm totally willing to be completely wrong on this. I totally understand that, like, yeah, they could have swapped, and I think that they did swap. I also think that Lonely Mudkip, I think Lonely Mudkip, I think that you're, and I think that some of you in this chat are playing a little game. I think that some of you are asking questions specifically to throw people like me off of the true trail and obfuscate things and make things less specific and more gray. And I think it's very entertaining and funny.
I would never.
Oh man, I really wish I had rewatched it, because I feel like there was one question they asked in the cast wrap-up party that I objected to. Oh man, I wish I remembered that. I feel like there was one question that I felt that I objected to immediately, and I wish I wrote it down or something to tease it out, but oh well.
No worries. I also love you guys for posting the robot face. Like, it's such a move and immediately makes me question everything about what just happened. So when all of you post it simultaneously, it's, yeah. Not only am I getting fucked with by Higurashi and with Ryukishi 07, but I'm also getting fucked with by my fucking chat. I think that it's very entertaining. But to answer your to kind of plant my flag further, I would say that Lonely Mudkip, there is that part where who I think is Mion, talking to Shion and saying, "You are a big sister," but I think that's more of like a that's what she wanted her to say. That was like part of their game that they were playing. In order to save Keiichi, she had to pretend to be Shion, and that was a way of convincing Keiichi that it was actually Shion when it was really Mion. Like, that was her desperate to save a friend, and she would do anything to do that. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, it all that entire theory depends on, like, I mean, I don't know what's happening, and this arc makes me feel like there's finally something I can grab a hold of and, like, be like, okay, I think I get it. I think I understand what's happening in this arc, and that'll help me figure out other arcs. But I don't know, when talking to people out loud and like realizing, like, wait, maybe that's not so, solid, and that theory is not so solid, it kind of loosens my grip on that.
So my follow-up question to both of you again is, why would Shion or Mion kill Rika and Satoko and, like, all the other people?
I had an epiphany during my stream. I want y'all to watch it, but I'll save it. Talsreal, go ahead.
Unfortunately, I don't have most of the solid answers on that. The surface treatment is of covering up the spread is the best that I had, but there were so many questions asked about that, and I don't really think I could stake a firm claim on it. I know there was the one. I think there was one thing in the cast party that proposed that I think the cast party one proposed that it was a struggle among the families, or maybe, I don't know if this was in the cast party or not, but maybe that some third party outside the three families had leverage over our culprit, whether that's Shion or Mion, to make them do these things and thus eliminate the three families. I mean, Furude is outright dead with Rika being gone. Sonozaki is severely discredited with the loss of Mion and Shion.
Yep. And
whichever one was the culprit. And the K, I can't quite remember their name, the K family,
Higurashi?
the mayor's family is we don't really have much to say of the effects on them, but the only one of them, Kimiyoshi, thank you, the only one of them that we've so much as heard of is Dad. So that is a blow to the three. That's a mortal blow to the three families. If there's someone with the leverage to cause these things to happen, whatever way that might be. But I have no real speculation beyond the infection theory Bob's been talking about, or the will of a Yashiro-sama to establish any of that.
So, also, I'll add to what you were just saying, because there was that part where I think it was a tip where it was talked about where twins were not actually supposed to be, like, twins were supposed to be killed. Twins were supposed to be gotten rid of when it came to, like, taking over power for the families, and that if any family was had a twin, they would need to be, like, gotten rid of. But
sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but that actually brings up a really important question that we probably need to put forward for consideration as soon as possible. Among the list of the dead was Oreo Sonozaki, Grandma Sonozaki. And that has implications that I can't fully process. Did Mion kill her? Did she die on her own? And I think that was something that the cast party brought up, that in the previous years of the Watanagashi, the disappearances were very nearly perfect crimes.
Yeah.
And then this year, the crimes are substantially clumsier.
Yeah, no, that came up in the after party kind of get together. I forget what they call it, the recap. Yeah, that came up, and that immediately made me go, "Oh wait, how did the previous people get killed? Like, why are because that's I'm kind of in the mode where right now I'm kind of trying to see what's the same about Arc 1 and Arc 2, you know? And I was thinking about this during my stream, and there are a bunch of things that are similar, but not all of it. And that's by design, obviously. But one of the things that's the same in every single one is Takano goes missing or dies, ? And then forget his name. I forget his name every single time. Tomitake. He dies every single time. And then there are all the murders that happen beforehand. What is happening with them? Like, just like you said, Talsreal, like, something is happening where these murders are happening and yet they're being covered up. But this year, for some reason, they're not being covered up. And that kind of plays into the theory I'm about to go with. So, flashback in your mind. Imagine a fat cop, and he's standing over your hospital bed holding a cart of porno as your mom's outside the door. And I want you to imagine when Oishi said, "Hey, does Rika have diabetes? That's weird. Rika doesn't have diabetes. I don't think. She might." Well, the whole reason for that is because the reason he asked that is because they found on her body a syringe. They cannot tell what is in the syringe because it broke and whatever was in it seeped out. But that is a similarity. Remember the ending of Onikashi, Arc 1. What were they trying to do to Kaiichi? They were trying to hold him down and inject him with something. This is why I said earlier that my opinion of the hospital has completely flipped with the exception of Takano. I think the hospital might also be involved with covering up the murders. Or not covering them up, but at least helping out with them. Because I think that the same thing that's happening on with the Watanagashi festival is happening every year because we have the evidence. One person dies, one person disappears. But we have evidence for the person dying. We don't have evidence for the person disappearing. That person disappearing might be disappearing because they are being, I don't know, I'm just spitballing. Maybe they're being researched on or something. Maybe they are being taken away, possibly by the hospital people, to be researched on or figured out. I don't know. Well, all I know is there seems to be evidence based on Rika going to talk to Shion, or who she thought was Mion, and then absolutely fucking, oh god, that's terrible. That's awful. But I think that the hospital has developed a drug that helps people who are infected with whatever the fuck is going on. I think the hospital has a way of either mitigating it or like curing it entirely. I don't think that what they're injecting people with is just a anesthetic. I think that explains why Rika had it. And I think that Rika was going to Shion and Mion's place specifically to help Shion out, because she knows in that scene where she is talking about the cat breaking into the shed, she is revealing that she knows what's going on with that. Not only does she know what's going on with Kaiichi, but also that she knows the bigger picture. And I think that kind of reveals why she went over there in the first place. I think that Satoko was a unfortunate casualty of this plan that Rika had to fix everything, which was to go over there and inject Shion with the needle. But Shion probably pulled the old switcheroo and got her to, not do it, or overpowered her in some way, and that's how she died. And then Satoko was like, I guess maybe actually, yeah, no matter what, Satoko was definitely a unfortunate casualty of this. But I think that Shion was like, I think that Shion, in her hyper paranoia, realized that Satoko knows where Rika went. And so Shion lured Satoko out to her place to kill her because she is so hyper paranoid. And her hyper paranoia would also explain why everybody, like all of the people in that household, died, with the exception of Mion, I guess. Also, yeah, it's interesting that Kaiichi was the only one kind of left alive. But that's kind of where I'm at. It was actually really sad realizing that she was like, she had the needle just like at the end of Arc 1, and she was probably trying to help them just like Rena and Mion were trying to help Kaiichi in Arc 1. It's just like, fuck. I said on the stream, like, this story is just about people trying to help people going through a terrible time and not succeeding, and it's really fucking sad. But that leads me to the biggest question of all. So I think that the other murders can kind of be solved by basically figuring out like who is the person that went nuts, and maybe possibly the hospital or the powers that be stepping in and kind of covering it up. I think that if I were to make a guess, that's kind of where I think that this is going. But the really, really, really interesting thing, the thing that powers this entire, not just the arc, because I also remind me to talk about the other theory that I have for what is happening, because we're repeating like events over and over again. It's really weird. Why are people going nuts in the first place? Like, I had that theory about the air, right? Like something being in the air. And I don't know if I still believe that. I made a joke that at the time was a joke, and now I'm like kind of really digging into it about like, wait, some of the things that are the same. I'm looking now because in the after party, they talk about how you should find things that are the same in each of the arcs, and then kind of compare and see like why these things are, maybe these things influence things. And the thing that I'm trying to figure out is when people start going nuts. Like, what are the same things that happen? What happened to Kaiichi that caused Shion to go nuts? I don't have an answer for that, but there was a really interesting moment. I think it was, I forget who said it. It might have been Mion. It might have been, oh yeah, I think it was Mion. At one point, no, was it Mion? I forget who it was. Someone said this. They said, if I hadn't made her cry, none of this would have happened. What the fuck does that mean? What is going on there? So now I'm like, oh, when they cry is like, fuck, is that a bigger hint to like what's going on? I've been talking, everybody's been silent. I need to shut up and stop being crazy on everybody. But yeah, I'm kind of all over the place, man, and it's real tough because I want to know, but I also am afraid of knowing, because that'll kind of take away this feeling that I have now of like just wanting to know everything and wanting to be like wanting to figure it out, you know?
Yeah. It's great hearing your theories.
Yeah,
I'm sure everyone else here.
You all know what the hell is going on, and I sound like a fucking insane weirdo.
That's a good thing.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
God damn it.
I guess we can also talk, this is something everyone can talk about, just how Reina's role in this chapter. It's very good.
Oh, she's a fucking star, dude.
Yeah, no,
Rena, sorry.
One of the big things I forgot about until going back to this was just how fucking good she was in this chapter.
What? She kind of dropped the ball when she let Kaiichi go off with Shion. That was kind of a major fuck up, but I get it. I understand.
Nobody's perfect.
True. Or, no, I can't do a joke with that. Anyway, but yeah, Rena's great. Rena's a fucking all-star. I wasn't sure because the first arc really kind of messes with her. But once you kind of, I don't know, I'm talking like this is the definitive truth. But once you realize that she's just trying to help you, and that all of the evil stuff that you think she's doing is actually just Kaiichi's, hyper paranoia of coming in and fucking with everything. Rena's a fucking real one. Rena's just like trying her fucking damnedest to keep everybody together, to keep everybody sane, to keep, everybody, safe.
She tries so hard.
Yeah.
It's also
She
it
gets
is
so
very,
far.
very
Maku, go.
it is very, very stupid, but it is also kind of sad when
Yes.
she lets Keiichi go with Mion or Shion, whoever it is. But it is also really sad thinking about how she spent like the first third of the arc trying to like smooth out their relationships and like help Mion with her crush on Keiichi. And if you think of it like that, like Rena like letting Mion having a last moment together with Keiichi, that's also really sad. Even if it's also very stupid, but
Yes. I just, it's funny thinking, like I was talking about before, where it's like, if you're one of the weirdos who's like cinema sensing this entire thing, you know, why did that happen? But and I say that largely for a joke. I totally get why Rena let Mion, it's Shion, do that with Kaiichi. But at the same time, like, come on, just tail them. Like, look, you don't have to be right next to them. Just keep an eye on them. And when they go into when they disappear into the woods and you hear a giant metal clang from a door being locked, maybe call the cops. Maybe get them over. I don't know. Anyway, I think it's very funny to interface with it.
My defense for her there is that the Sonozaki estate is really big. She could have heard the clang and just like, okay, I gotta go get the cops, and had to run like an entire mile.
Yeah, like that was something that surprised me when reading through it. Just like there's like a lot of estate in between, like, you know, the first gates and the doors.
Yeah, it just, for me, it's also like, see, it's tough because I want to call bullshit on some of this stuff, but also I can't help but think that maybe that'll factor in. Like, Oishi said that he had guys posted all over that estate, right? And then when he goes off, when Kaiichi goes off with Mion, it's Shion, into the fucking torture chamber, wouldn't one of them have seen it? The only reason in my mind that you wouldn't have seen that is if maybe you wanted them to go off.
I do want to note one thing. In the official report at the end, the report said that they happened to hear it during a patrol. There was no mention of having them go in intentionally.
I would say that that's a red herring, because you wouldn't want to put that in the notes, because it's made obvious that the Yakuza, or Mion and Shion's uncle, I think, is very, very adamant that no one sets foot on their property if it's absolutely necessary. So I think that's one of those things where they had to gussy up the report, the final report, in order to like let it be kosher for the investigation going forward. They didn't want to say like, oh, because at the very beginning they also, Oishi plays that fucking trick that I immediately called bullshit on, and then Rena's like, hey, you're a fucker, Oishi, when he gets the call from his guy, his lieutenant, and the lieutenant's like, oh, it turns out we can't do anything. I guess someone's got to help us after all. And Oishi's like, well, shucks, y'all. I can't believe we can't figure out this whole Mion thing. Anyway, if only there was someone who could go onto the estate and figure things out for us. And Rena's like, you fucking suck. You're just trying to manipulate Kaiichi into going over there, aren't you? And Oishi's like, ooh, wow, we got a little detective over here. It was such shit. It's one of the main reasons why Rena's just fucking killer. ACAB.
Yeah, Rena is very ACAB, and it's great basically whenever it happens.
Every single time Oishi gets steamrolled, I guess, in a way, it fills me with joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's also, I just remembered, yeah, that has to have been a manipulation of the report, because there was that scene, I think was it in the tip chapter, or was it in the actual arc, where Oishi is like rah-rahing with the other guys to get them like to do this thing that they were about to do on the property, on Mion and Shion's property.
It was a tips chapter in a mahjong parlor, yeah.
Yeah, that one, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on in my head. So I did want to talk real quick about what is happening with, why are we doing arcs? Why? Normally, time works by going forward, and it keeps going forward. We don't generally rewind. And I had an idea during my stream that I hope is the case, and if it's not, I might steal it for my own. I might just write my own visual novel with this as one of the main things. I had this idea that someone... Okay, so what's the name of the god, the guardian of
Oyashiro-san.
Oyashiro-san. What if...
Praise be.
because he's a defender, right? He's the defender of Hinamizawa. What if someone, in order to fix this shit that's going on at the end of the arc, what if someone's like beseeching him and causing like all of these events to rewind, and so that maybe they can try and figure it out? I'm thinking there's a part. It would be so fucking cool if this is the case. If this is a Groundhog's Day situation, but we're not, Keiichi isn't what's his name? I forget. Groundhog. Oh my god. What?
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. Oh, why my brain is Swiss cheese. But we're not
Keiichi
Bill Murray.
doesn't have reading Steiner.
But like, wouldn't that be cool if like, maybe it's Rena, right? And Rena's like, Rena, because of what happened. Oh wait, no, she died at the end. There's no way that one. Fucking whatever. I have ideas, and I think that one's cool. What if someone's beseeching Oyashiro-sama and being like, "Fuck, my friends are dead. I can't believe my friends are dead. Help!" And then it turns out, oh yeah, there is a spiritual aspect to this, and it's the one that's causing the arcs to happen. That we're rewinding because someone is beseeching this deity to like fucking fix everything. Like, I can imagine in my mind, it's an amazing scene of someone going to this guardian, like this fucking god, and being like, "You can't. If any just god would not let this happen. I care too much about my friends. You need to fucking rewind. We need to fix this. We need to figure out what's going on." And then Oyashiro-sama is like, "Okay," and then just everything rewinds. You know, that'd be fucking sweet. Everyone's silent, and I don't know if that's them thinking that I'm an idiot or whether I'm actually like hitting something.
No, you just made me remember a different mystery I was going to ask a question about. If no one else has anything to say, I can go ahead with it.
I was just gonna say that I think you should write something, man. I would read it. I would absolutely read At the End by Mr. bobvids.
Well, thank you very much. I have messed around with what I actually do have an idea of a story that I would write. It's very Silent Hill-y, but yeah, no, maybe I should. Once I finish my Medium video.
I know my way around Renpai.
I gotta add a bunch of anime bullshit in it though. Fuck. Need a curry contest. Absolutely need a curry contest. All right, go ahead.
So when Keiichi and Shion are in the in the area they're not supposed to be, there's a point where Shion asks Keiichi, "Hey, weren't you scared of the knocking?" So what is your opinion on that, both of you and Talsreal?
Talsreal, you want to take this?
I don't think I have particularly firm.
So
I have thoughts about. I mean, I'm tempted to deflect to the gang scene again, just because I have thoughts about kind of the togetherness of the town as possible motivation for that. Yeah, maybe I will, just because. I guess rather than hanging myself up and twisting myself into knots trying to explain the concept, I guess with the gang scene, I guess one of the very interesting things about it, I mean, so of course the thrust of it is all the Hinamizawans come together and back Keiichi up against the gang. But the part that got my attention was that Keiichi kicks over one of the gang guys' bicycles, or their stolen bicycles, as we find out in the tips.
Yep.
And that provokes them. And that gets my attention because it's early enough in the happy fun times of the arc. Keiichi hasn't really figured out that he's hurt Mion's feelings yet, I believe. And he's seeing this new side of quote-unquote Mion because he hasn't figured out the Shion split yet, but he's emotionally unstable, but he's not emotionally unstable in a way that should cause him to lash out like that. And that's interesting to me because one of the big things from my perspective in this arc is that, to phrase it in kind of gamey terms, Keiichi's synchronization with the town in Arc 2 is much higher than in Arc 1.
Yeah.
And that's very natural because it's pretty early on where Tomitake kind of drops that line about, hey, this Hinamizawa's got a dark secret, and that kind of starts snowballing for Keiichi early. In Arc 2, all the dark secret stuff drops on Watanagashi Eve and hits him all at once, pretty much. But in Arc 2, he's a lot more integrated with the town. And I kind of wonder if that town synchronization, kind of in Disco Elysium terms, kind of a mashup of Esprit de Corps and Shivers, that he's in tune with Hinamizawa, and that for some reason these gangsters may have pissed off Hinamizawa, the collective, in a way, and Keiichi lashes out because of that. And then Hinamizawa comes together and backs him up against these gangers.
Yeah.
And then that all kind of ties forward to the sacred storeroom, in my sense, that I see kind of 3 levels of interaction with the storeroom, because Takano is, I'm going in there, I'm digging up all the dirt, I'm going in and I'm getting all of what I want. And then there's kind of the middle ground of Tomitake and Shion. Yeah, I'm into this, I'm going in, or Tomitake picks the lock and stays outside, but he's kind of neutrally on board with that. And then there's Keiichi, who's not comfortable with this, but Shion kind of pulls him along.
Yeah.
And I kind of got a theory that the knocking is a dissonance from the collective will of the town. And I'm kind of specifically keeping this not necessarily Oyashiro-sama, the god, but kind of the collective will of the town, that Takano is hostile to all of that. She's separate. She doesn't hear anything because she's all in and she's going for it. She doesn't care. Tomitake is an outsider, but kind of one merging more in with the town, and Shion's more native, but she's also got her dissonance with the town. But both of them are kind of in that middle ground, and the town's like, I kind of feel like the town's knocking at them to like kind of intimidate them, to warn them. And continuing this theory, I feel like Keiichi doesn't hear it because he already doesn't like it. He already wants to get out of there. He's like, for as much as Keiichi spends the rest of Arc 2, oh, I did a terrible thing, I need to ask forgiveness, I'm sorry. He's already kind of in the right mindset. He's already in the mindset the town wants of him.
Yeah, I think that you're, I like it, because it's also, you're not off base, because the game of the visual novel kind of refers to itself in gamey terms. I think that, to interface with that and kind of continue that is apt. I think that, yeah, that absolutely could turn out to be the case. I think that also, that scene where they're in the storehouse with all the torture equipment or whatever it is, I think that we also kind of skipped over how, I think it's Keiichi who mentions that foreigners to Japan were referred to as demons, and this town is not actually named Hinamizawa. It's got another name, Onigafuchi Village, aka the Demon's Abyss, because it was named after the bottomless swamp, which is Silent Hill, anybody? Anybody else like Silent Hill? I like Silent Hill. Have you heard about a game called Silent Hill 2?
I think it's pretty neat.
This whole area used to be a sacred place. Anyway, yeah, I think that for me, that's a really interesting tidbit, and I think it might play into things later, and I think that's also part of the reason why people in Hinamizawa band together. But wait a minute. They weren't in Hinamizawa. Angel Mort isn't in Hinamizawa. It's outside of Hinamizawa, right?
It is not. That's correct. They were in... I'm blanking on the next door town name, but yes, Angel Mort.
Were you saying something, Maku?
Isn't it Okinomiya?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okinomiya.
It's nearby a big town.
Yeah. So, oh, damn. Then that doesn't really... I was thinking that... Okay, follow my theory crafting brain for a second. I was thinking that maybe that also contributes to like why the town is so... They band together so easily. It's because they have been beset by everybody else, all the rival towns. Like the thing that Shion says at the end when she's kind of when she goes like, "Hello, I am Mion. I am the head of the basically the Yakuza in this place. Answer any question. Ask me any question and I'll answer it." And she talks about how there was a how they ate during like earlier wars. They ate human flesh, and then I like this music going along with this. What I'm saying. So they ate human flesh. Anyway, but yeah, like how they talked about eating human flesh, and then that kind of was the inception point of like being demons. But really, based on what Kaiichi said, it could also be that foreigners came to Japan, and then the people of Hinamizawa, like kind of, you know, embraced them and kind of, you know, had there was foreigner blood in this town, and maybe that also kind of wraps it into how the outside villages kind of treated them. And there's just a history of like mistreatment of the people in Hinamizawa, and that's why they have this kind of like deep-seated sort of mistrust of outsiders, because they have been beset upon by basically everybody, and that if you're living there, then you're one of them, and that you know, you're one of us now, and we, you know, pile on anybody. What was the thing that they said? It was like if 10 people attack, 20 people respond, or something along those lines.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm going. But to get back to the knocking, I think that was evidence that we need to go back to look at what Shion had experienced up to that point, because she's infected at that point. She something happened to her, and this is where I go back to whatever that fucking character said, where it's like, I made her cry, that's why all of this is happening, which was just a one-off line that ended things, and it was just so weird, and it made me realize, like, wait a minute, I need to go back and see if we made a certain character cry at a certain point, and maybe it's Mion. And if something is happening, I don't even know. It sounds like, I don't know. Why would someone crying drive another person insane? But anyway, if Mion cried, and then that somehow, I don't even know, man. See, this is where we're getting into like really like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm basing everything off of just what one character said in an offline note. But I think it was a pretty big one. I think that like, if we can go back and find out who cried when, and because the knocking, to get back to that, I think that's evidence that Shion is infected. And if we can go back and figure out, like, maybe she cried, maybe someone near her cried. In my mind, it's Mion who cried, because Mion's the one who's like, she's devastated. We already saw her cry with Rena, but then why isn't Rena infected? I don't fucking know. I'm so confused. But at the same time, like, it's a pretty big hint as to what's going on. And for me, the knocking, she tried to play it off as a joke. I also think that maybe she knows what's going on and that she knows that she's infected at a certain point, and maybe that's why she kind of played it off as a joke. But then it overtook her. I'm basing a lot of this on like my infection theory. But turns out a fucking alien is in the town, and it's causing all this wacky shit to happen. Oh, there goes my infection theory. Now it's alien theory. Anyway,
It was a dog at a computer.
oh my god. So it was you the whole time?
This was all you.
But yeah. So for me, it's like, yeah, the knocking, I think that was a result of her paranoid brain thinking that someone was outside, amping up her paranoia of people seeing where they are. But yeah, that's kind of my thing. I still have no idea what's going on in so many of these things. Also, can we talk about Wipey Wipey?
What?
Wipey Wipey is the part in this arc, the other awful part, where I guess it's Shion. I mean, I don't know. Talsreal, it might be Mion. I have no idea.
No, I concur that it's. I mean, I think the Shion confirms that it's her. I mean, unless Shion's the one behind the game store desk, I think it has to be Shion.
What have they swapped places? Yeah.
At Angel Mort on dessert day.
I think that. Oh wait, wouldn't it be pretty easy to tell if Mion wouldn't be at Angel Mort because she has that tattoo, and anyone who could see that tattoo would be able to immediately tell that it's Mion. Or it's not that she wouldn't be; it's that if she was, like, the character art would show, or not the character art, but people would know it's her because of the character art. Anyway, that's whatever. But anyway, if
Actually,
that is,
you never see the actual like tattoo on either of them. So,
I mean, I think you may be
true.
I think you may be overestimating the size of the tattoo. Like, you may be thinking full Yakuza back tattoo. The demon tattoo may not necessarily. The demon tattoo may not necessarily be that big, and I don't think we've seen the back of the Angel Mort uniforms to see how high their back is either.
Okay.
Well, the thing with the back of, because he, like, regardless of who it is, it's always quote unquote Shion. She always wears her hair down,
right?
So that covers up her back.
Mm.
Just because there's a lot of it.
Nice save. Nice cover. Staghorn, you're in on it. You're an obfuscator.
I mean, I am, but not this time.
I'm fucking around. No, you're totally right. But anyway, getting back to it. The thing that I was going to say is Wipey Wipey is what happens when the otaku are in that store.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember.
Yep.
I remember.
Yep. Then they purposefully trip Shion so that she spills whatever she was holding on their pants, and then they all start chanting Wipey Wipey because they want her to wipe the... Do I even want to say it? They describe his crotch as a tent. So, cool, great, wonderful, fantastic.
The only good thing about that is that Keiichi's response is correct and immediately going to kick their asses.
Yes, true, yes.
Yeah, the only interpretation that I can cling to for that is Ryukishi saying, hey, that's gross. Think about their perspective when you do this shit to them. Think about what the fucking waitress has to go through when you do this. That's the only thing I can cling to here, is hoping that that's what he meant.
I mean, they are portrayed as pieces of shit, and the whole gang gets together to make them shit their pants, I guess, which is very funny. Sorry?
I think that would go over better. Like, these are bad people, and they're getting the shit kicked out of them for it. That would go over if similar jokes weren't in this and the previous arc already, but
Yes, that's
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was going.
it feels like there is a bottled universe where weird shit happens.
Yes.
It-
And the writing is so good where I'm kind of like, is this part of the game? Is Ryukishi trying to put this in this game so that he can eventually wrap it around and show people, hey, stop doing this shit, you weirdos?
And
I want to believe. I'm X-Files man. I want to believe. But
an adaptational thing I think is notable is that Ryukishi had a great deal of control over like the manga adaptations and stuff, and most of that is absolutely just excised, like a bad growth. With
it's true, except at the very beginning, where I believe it's Mion at the beginning of the manga, because I was just starting it up just to see, like, I read a couple pages on Amazon or Comixology because I was curious. And she immediately starts going like, hey, now that you're back, guess whose tits got bigger? It's like, I don't know, maybe, but at the same time, like, what a first couple pages to start out on. It's like, okay, all right.
I really want to believe that there's some regret there, and that's where cutting it out of stuff like the manga comes from, but at the same time, that might just be me coping really hard.
Yeah, and that's in the manga. Like, that's the,
I know. I just know that a lot of other weird shit isn't, even if that one is.
Oh, yeah. Has Ryukishi, anyone who knows any of this in chat, or if any of you guys know, has Ryukishi said anything about, like, how some of this stuff in Higurashi has aged?
Not really, at least not to my knowledge.
I don't know, but I haven't really read any of his interviews. I really only know the guy through his work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Not that I am aware. Oh.
I've read a lot of interviews, and I don't remember this coming up. That doesn't mean that it isn't in one of them. It's just I don't remember.
Okay. Maku?
I don't know.
I'm not aware of him saying, like, mentioning it directly in any interviews. I think it is true that it has been toned down in later adaptations that he had a hand in, but I think it is never completely removed from the work. And I think also he has, I think Ryukishi has been very open about his, like, nerdy bad anime interests and stuff. He does have an interest in this stuff.
Yeah, alright.
And maybe...
Yeah, if I'm not... Sorry, you go ahead, Vinay.
Oh, no, I wasn't really going to say much more, but yeah, like, he may have realized that he went a bit hard on it, but I think it is still very much a part of something he thinks is funny, and it is still a part of the work in some way.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, apparently the whole Angel Mort outfit is, like, partially inspired by this other VN, like Pia Carrot. It looks like some kind of, like, maid cafe VN sort of thing. It's very otaku, it looks like. So
yeah, Ryukishi has actually talked, because I have looked this up myself, but it's a bit hard. It's very hard to find interview translations and stuff. But he has actually specifically talked about, like, the Angel Mort costume and, like, how he actually has an interest. He has, like, a funny uniforms interest. That is something the author is interested in.
Yeah, and I guess the uniforms thing isn't, like, the worst thing. I mean, the fact that they're children is the 16-year-olds.
Yeah, like, in itself, that's fine, but with putting it on these characters is something I object to.
Yeah. It's, also, it kind of, I could kind of tell that Ryukishi was, like, if not an otaku himself, or then possibly, like, well-versed in the culture, because there's that part in that scene with at Angel Mort where, they're treating Shion like shit, where they talk about the Angel Mort girls' toys and the franchising of it and, like, all that stuff, and it just seemed like a little bit too detailed to be just like a one-off thing. Like, maybe this is coming from somewhere, but I don't know. Maybe it was.
There's some other stuff that comes to mind, like particularly in Umineko with stuff like some costumes are adapted from stuff that was popular at the time. Like, I think one of them is based on, I want to say it was a particular like outfit that was a meme on an image board at a time, and a character just kind of has it. Like, there's very clear cultural influence that bleeds over, and sometimes that's very bad.
Yeah. It's hard for me to tell. Like,
sometimes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sometimes it seems like he realized that and backtracks later, but referencing like how that's toned down in some adaptations and such. But
yeah,
and
it's not excusing anything. It's bad. It's
and some of the outfits are taken like straight out of like Gothic Lolita catalogs as well. Actual like literal ones.
Yeah.
Like I remember like at least one outfit in Umineko is a weird design because he was specifically designing it from a picture in a magazine which didn't show the back.
Mm-hmm.
And so the outfit's like kind of like divided in half or something.
I think that's actually the same one that I was talking about earlier, that like I think it was like a brief meme or something that never crossed over to English speaking territory, so like draw characters in that, and then he just gave that to a character as their default outfit, something like that. I don't remember the full details.
Sorry, I'm just reading my notes here. My first note is Mion Shion or... And then my fifth note is, Welp! I guess we know Mion and Shion are two different people. It's funny reading this, like, as I realized it.
Like, asterisk Eon and cover them both.
Yeah, I forget who it was. Oh, yeah. I forget who it was, but on the stream that I did, we were calling them Shmion. So,
that's a phrase I haven't heard in a long time.
I like it. It makes me think of schmear on a bagel, you know?
What if it was Mashion? That's the evil version.
Oh, God. Oh, man. The next chapter, like, Mion shows up with, like, a fucking eye patch and a fucking gnarly scar on the other eye. Oh, that'd be badass.
Punished Shion.
I can see Mion... I can 100% see Mia doing that and having it be costuming and makeup, but still going through the entire effort to, you know, do that realistically. She is that extra, and I love her for it.
Absolutely.
I feel like Shion would wear an eye patch for style.
I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
It would match the Angelborn outfit. Satoshi Hojo is a nephew by marriage of the woman killed. And my note is related to Satoko. So the thing that kind of blindsided me, and I'm realizing that I realized it off air, and it was actually a pretty big thing for me, was realizing that Satoko's older brother was Satoshi. And when I realized that, suddenly it made all the sense in the world why Satoko just fucking ran. The moment that in the first arc, Keiichi picks up Satoshi's bat. Like, she just runs. She doesn't say anything. Rika sticks around and explains, like, oh yeah, that was the previous dude. So that's a thing. And that was literally the result of me just looking at the last names and then being like, wait a minute, is Satoko related to her? Oh no. And then later on, it's totally 100% her brother.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
now you're getting
sad
into
as fuck.
Tato Higurashi, which is kind of about that at its core.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be like the first arc was some. Oh man, I said it. I forget where I said it. It might have been Mastodon, but first arc, man. I have rounded the corner on Satoshi, or Satoko. Satoko's cool. Like, she was a little shit. Just annoying as fuck, but then that first episode of that arc, god damn, as an older brother, it really, like, you know, hits you that, like, you know, I don't know, I reacted to it in a very specific way where I was just like, oh my god, I totally know like what it's like to have an annoying little sister, and it didn't occur to me that that's what she was doing with Kaiichi. That she was trying to like treat him like that, and then, you know, just basically have some semblance of her brother back, and that's really fucking sad. That's so sad. And then they went to the woods, and then Rena got caught in a trap, and there was talk of her panties, and I was just like, fuck. Wow, this is a lot. Help.
The duality of Higurashi.
Yeah.
It's just
sometimes you just get lost and fall into the anime dimension, and you claw your way back out with bloody fingernails.
It's funny because that was a tip chapter, so it was just like, man, I really didn't need to click on that. But anyway.
And actually, I guess on the subject of Satoshi, I found a thread of a Let's Read of Higurashi that I was following a little bit to the point where we are, and there was one observation there that kind of floored me. So to repeat it in as closely as I can render it. So in the West, we all know that devils carry pitchforks. Devils have a signature weapon that's the pitchfork. In Japan, Oni have a signature weapon.
Is it traps?
No.
Okay.
The weapon in question is giant metal rods.
Yeah, like a club or a bat.
Mm-hmm.
Like a metal baseball bat.
Oh, you said rods, and I was thinking like, so they just carry like a bunch of metal rods in a backpack on their back or something? Like what? They're like,
no. I mean,
yeah, no.
You see.
Okay, so like a baseball bat.
You see it in a lot of games where like Shootin' Doji or Ibaraki Doji is carrying just this huge iron rod as tall as them, and then they swing it at you.
So you just gave me some information that kind of recontextualizes some of the stuff in Paranoia Agent.
Oh
yeah.
So,
Agent's great.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that. I didn't have the best time with Paranoia Agent, but I feel like it deserves a repeat watch.
I do say the Paranoia Agent. I watched it last year even. Still holds up very well.
Cool. Oh, another note. Murder plus disappearance equals murderer using Oyashiro as cover and town sacrificing someone. So there was a lot of talk about that. I think that was in the chapter where I think that was coming from Takano, possibly.
Yeah, that was part of Takano's big explanation, like on the shrine steps.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like there are so many different angles that this narrative is playing with, and really kind of giving you like options. It's tough because like I can see it being a game, but I also like I think it would fall apart if it tried to be too much of like a game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the writing is so good here, it kind of feels like I'm playing a game though, where it's like I feel like the game is solving it, you know? Even though there is no like, you know, choose your own adventure, there is, because I'm choosing the answers that I want to. It's not choose your own adventure, it's choose your own answer. At least it will be until the finale. But no, it's just I realize now I sound like an idiot because I'm just like saying, oh, thinking is fun. It's like fucking
it is.
No, it truly is. Oh yeah, here's an old note that I had in here. All right, you guys ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking lady Takano injected Shion with something in the storage area. Now she's hearing shit, dude. Fuck. So that was one of my original theories, is that Takano, like based on the previous arc, I was thinking like the stuff in the syringe was bad, right? Like maybe there was something that causes paranoia and that it can be injected into somebody. And I was kind of going it with that arc because I was still on the people who are working at the hospital are bad kind of shtick. But then, you know, all this other stuff happened. But yeah, I've kind of dropped this theory, but I figured I might as well say it here, mostly because I had the thought on stream when I really was in the middle of it and not figuring out anything, that the reason why Keiichi was kind of losing his mind at a certain point was because Takano was in the trunk of Oishi's car with a needle and poked it through the seat to inject Keiichi with it. So there's that.
A blow dart gun.
Oh yeah. I guess they don't have Star 69 in Japan. Is a note that I had for when Shion called and they were trying to figure out who called or something along those lines. Anyway, my notes are done. So yeah, that's basically it. Does anyone have any like notes to say, final thoughts, anything?
I guess for what you were saying about your Star 69 note, I remember that after one of the first late night calls between Keiichi and Shion, that Keiichi freaks out and yells at Shion, and I think she's the one that hangs up because he's freaking out at her. And
yep.
I mean, he's like, "Oh man, I might never talk to her again because I freaked out." At like instant regret. I did a bad thing. I should apologize to her, but I might never hear from her again, and I certainly don't have her phone number. So that's probably where you were coming from with the Star 69 thing.
Yeah, that's you nailed it. Yeah, that's the exact thing that I was thinking. I like recording notes with no like context, just reading them out loud, and it's very, very fun. But yeah, so yeah, I'm still going. You know,
Nice.
It was rough there, but I'm gonna keep on trucking. I'm in the first chapter of Tatari Goroshi. I'm hard to say things. And yeah, I'm hooked. You know, I'm well in it. Well in it.
So
That is good to hear.
Go ahead.
I might as well say. I was looking at my notes, and you never brought up the poems at the beginning of each chapter.
I was going to ask about that. What you thought?
I need to read them again. They happen so early, and like when I'm just kind of getting settled to like really like watch a bunch of stuff, that I remember thinking when I first saw in Arc 1, the poem was really nice. But also, I'm surprised, if we're talking about that, we should also talk about the poem that happens in the middle of each chapter. Those seem to hold clues that might really kind of help figure out what the hell is going on. I don't know what they are though, so if anyone can look those up for me, because I'm worried I'll look them up and spoil myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say that if you looked up the author of each of the poems, which is Federica Bernkastel, the Higurashi wiki pops up.
Okay.
So do with that what you will.
Yeah, I would, but don't look up that name. That is...
Yeah. Don't look it up. That's why I'm saying the Higurashi wiki pops up.
Spicy spoiler.
Oh, oh no. So it's fake and the person was made specifically for this game. Silence is golden.
So have fun with the poems. Who knows what you
I have to say, Bob, I think like it's true what people mentioned at the beginning that like Arc 3 does have some questionable stuff. But it's still my personal favorite arc. And,
oh yeah, no, the highs in Tatari Goroshi are like up to the mountaintops.
Yeah. It's really, really fucking golden. Because if you can get through the questionable stuff, I think you'll have a lot of fun with this arc.
Yeah, like there's the questionable stuff, but like the stuff that's in here is like, this is the stuff that's going to make you realize that mental health wise and like as far as sensitive topics are concerned, Silent Hill F is in good hands.
Everything I've heard about this series is that it handles mental health very, very well. And I've been worried about this arc because I've been told that it deals with very sensitive topics, but also that it has really awful shit in it. And that makes me like red flags are popping up all over the place. But hold on, I have a pun. That's Lara high praise. Get it? Is that your name?
Curious. What is it specifically that, if you want to say, what is it specifically that people have warned you about with Chapter 3?
I haven't. I have specifically. People have been. Cicada heads out there, y'all are really cool because you have been very adamant about not spoiling anything for me. And that is rad. Like, normally when I post about stuff like, God of War or something, people will be real quick to be like, oh, did you see the thing that happened? Here's a picture and a video, and here's the thumbnail for a YouTube video that spoils literally every fucking thing. Like, I have had none of that with this game, with Higurashi. And the thing that the people were saying is difficult. It is only insinuated. I do not have specifics about what will happen. I have ideas about what it is. And those are along the lines of like, I don't need to say it, but like considering the characters involved, considering the nature of the things that people have been saying, I have kind of filled in the blanks there. I don't know if that's true. We'll see. I'll see.
So I guess my follow-up to that is, obviously you wouldn't want like specific content warnings, but would you like us to like say you can deafen yourself and we can tell the chat about certain content warnings?
Actually, you know what? How about I just take my earphones off and then you guys can do that? Okay, I've been told that I can come back. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, Remy. Oh God, I'm sorry. I don't know what they were talking about, but for all I know, they were saying things to get me banned from Twitch the entire time.
Oh yeah.
No.
Masterfully played, if so.
You're gonna receive a US message.
Yeah.
I was singing copyrighted music. And
Oh, damn it. Oh,
Little do
can't
you
believe-
know, I'm actually an award-winning, world-class singer, so it was perfect.
Oh,
Yeah, all
shit.
of us recreated every Disney movie imaginable.
Well, that little. Go ahead.
We also talked a little bit about, we did kind of want to warn you specifically about one, because you have the content warnings and stuff, or
Yes.
some vague content warnings, but we were all kind of in agreement that we kind of wanted to warn you about a specific capital A anime thing that's going to be in Chapter 3.
Uh-oh.
I don't really know like how I would advise. I don't know because I've been putting off playing it myself, so I don't know how you would like skip it. But there is going to be a specific character who is blonde and has glasses, and there's very, very, very bad anime things surrounding that character, and I don't really know how to advise you to avoid it, but he might start talking bullshit and it's awful and you can skip it if you want. I don't know, but it's there and it's bad and
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be playing the visual novel if I didn't want the full experience. And there's some things that there's some things that I'm definitely not cool with. But if it's there for a reason or a purpose, to maybe reflect on that character or how that, or if it's one character.
I don't think it's really justified in that case.
Okay. All right.
With that character, I don't think it's like narratively justified.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's a bad anime joke, and it also appears in other versions of the story as well, which is very, very unfortunate.
Well.
Yeah, it's bad, but we wanted to let you know about it because it's shitty to be blindsided by it, honestly.
Yeah. There was the bit earlier where we were all kind of in agreement, talking around and alluding to something being very bad in Chapter 3, and we were kind of all meant specifically this guy.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Like, this guy just absorbed all of the world's evils and became the worst man, and everyone wants him gone, and yet he is here, so
Shit. Okay.
have fast forward on ready when you see him, because it can get rough.
All right. You got it. Cool.
He's the
I hope
cheater.
it's not Satoshi.
No,
No.
thankfully.
All right.
No, he's good.
All right.
Yeah, he's transferred.
Yeah, he transferred. Okay, cool. Or not cool. Well, that's yeah. I think that just about does it. Unless do we want to go around and just do final notes?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's go and let's go ahead and start with 25. So, overall thoughts on chapter 2, aka Arc 2, aka Watanagashi.
I'm pretty sure this one's my favorite, considering the focus characters are my two favorites, and it has my favorite ending, and I'm going to use the word favorite a lot if I go on anymore. Also, I hope Syconia Phase 2 comes out before I'm dead in the ground.
Indestructible Cat.
I will say I'm in the opposite opinion. I think Watanagashi is my least favorite
Oh.
of the question ones,
I
just
wouldn't-
because.
Well,
Yeah.
there's the fourth one, which
Yeah, the fourth one I think is interesting. So I
It's
would
interesting,
still put that. Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to ask. I totally blanked on this, but I wanted to ask y'all. How far into this visual novel am I? Like, have I just started Arc 3? Like, technically, like I saw that the next arc is only 2 chapters.
Yeah, so like once you hit the end of the next arc, which is only 2 chapters, you will be about halfway through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Episode 4 is the shortest of the 8. So.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Larahai, what did you think of Watanagashi Arc 2?
I mean, overall, I think it's a very good arc in the themes it explores, and like what it sets for the future of the story is very, very interesting, but can't talk about it because spoilers. Like, overall, the characters and the relationships that are explored, I just find it so interesting because it expands what you already know about them, and yeah, I love Rena so much.
Rena's a real one. All right, Maku, what do you think?
I also enjoyed my time with Watanagashi a lot. The parts that were good. I can't say nowadays, but Watanagashi also used to be my favorite, and now, especially when I'm rereading them and giving all the arcs, like reading the original text and actually seeing all the original stuff, I'm appreciating all of them much more and much more evenly. And I think my takeaway from Watanagashi is still this kind of the same thing I said in the beginning. I really appreciate it as kind of like a response to the first arc, the Onikakushi, just doing like the whole thing with just doing things differently this time around, and how interesting that is, and how interesting it is to compare the two. I really like just the connection between them a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right, and I'm gonna steal your viewpoint and just mimic it, because you're absolutely right. Like, really, chapter 2 is kind of the make or break chapter about whether you decide to keep going with this or not, because it's all about how is this, am I really just watching the same thing over and over and over again? Like, given to a worse writer, I don't know, blooper team, they would have fallen on their asses, like trying to make this interesting, trying to make this work. But you're totally right. Like, Arc 2 really kind of sets the stage for like, wait, this is what we have to look forward to. Not just answers, but more questions. And really kind of focusing on, wait, the reason you're here is for the characters and what's happening to the characters and how they're changing and how they're reacting to the environments that they find themselves in. Yeah, you're totally right. Staghorn, what did you think? Arc 2.
Arc 2 is definitely the arc that I like. If I could go back and listen to any arc or read any arc completely fresh, erasing everything else in my head about this and just experiencing it again for the first time, it would be this arc.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, even as a person who just finished it, like the tips and the twists and turns and the information that's given out, and it's just all, I mean, I could probably do without the fucking Angel Mort shit. I could do without the fucking, you know, all the other stuff that I previously said. The ending and the way that you get to that point, and just, I don't think I mentioned it, but the fucking Shion stabbing Keiichi in the fucking gut with a meat cleaver was so like, I knew something was gonna happen, but it was like, oh damn, like, holy crap, this is oh Jesus, this is really fucking out there now. But yeah, no, it's really powerful. A lot of it's really powerful. I just wish that the ending was more like the manga. That manga ending, the image, oh boy. Oh, if you haven't seen it, go look it up. It's oof.
Did you read the manga for the first arc?
No, I mentioned it earlier. I read the only up to the amount that Amazon gives you for free. So I got to the part where Mion's like, "Hey, while you were gone, my tits got bigger," and then I was just like, "Okay, all right, cool, thank you, thank you."
The first arc is an interesting thing to read because it actually does some pretty cool stuff with like imagery and.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear. Yeah. And I could totally see how the story could be plussed up by both animation and by like more drawing. Because the more that I watch, the more that I play this visual novel, the more I'm like, man, I really wish that they, like, don't get me wrong, Rikishi does a lot with sound. Sound is like the main reason I'm here, is because you know, just the reaction to everything and just the voice acting and all that stuff, and it really works well. But like, if there was just a better version of the anime that really kind of focused on doing as one-to-one as a thing to the visual novel, like that would be incredible. But,
that would be incredible.
Boy, I sure wish that existed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I digress. Staghorn, we just did you, right?
Yeah, I don't have much more to say.
Okay, cool. Talsriel, what did you think? Arc 2.
I certainly liked it. I liked Mion as a character, even from the first arc, even spotting Rina all the murder stuff.
Yeah.
But definitely good. I mean, but it was great in arc 2 seeing the characters flesh out more. Like Rika in particular, Rika in arc 1 was the quiet one. I kind of saw. She didn't speak up very much. From my perception in arc 1, and she's up and she's doing a lot more, and you're getting more of her. Oh, she's manipulative. You get more about you get a lot more about who she is in arc 2, and that's a good thing. Just having some more of that characterization get to grow out of the story. I guess I did also. Talking about the images, I actually kind of did have, I think, an objection to one of the CGs since I've got 7th mod, and I kind of disagree with the fact that first CG with the doll scene giving it to Reyna, you can see Mion disappointed in the background, and I think that's kind of a bad play because it's letting the audience in on, Keiichi screwed up well before Keiichi figures it out himself.
Yeah.
Well,
looking at
isn't
that,
it the case that the first time you see it, like the background's blurred, and then only later do you see that it's that you see Mion's reaction?
I'm pretty sure that's the case. I think that's the case. I could be wrong. I do remember seeing what you're talking about, Talsriel. I do remember seeing Mion being upset, but at the same time, my memory might be retroactively filling that in. Because I actually think that she was cut out. I don't think you actually see her face. But yeah, anyway. It does definitely kind of give it away. It leaves less room for speculation, I guess. But yeah. So Jan, what'd you think of Arc 2?
I think it's interesting because it has a lot of recontextualization going on with it. Makes you kind of think about stuff from before in a different way.
Yeah.
I think it shows you that there's like more depth to it than you might have seen before, or make you feel like, okay, there could be more going on here than we didn't know about before. I really like the character stuff that's going on with Shion. That's a type of character I really like, and I really, of course, like it when they're done justice and explored well. She gets more exploration later, of course, they all do.
I really hope that she does, because I like Shion. Like Shion, I like her kind of being that shitty little sister, even though I like that they're calling them big sister and little sister, but how like far apart they're probably apart by like seconds, right? So it's just funny but she's also kind of taking on that role of being just the younger kid and just being an absolute menace. But also she seemed earnest early on when you first meet her, just being like, kind of taken aback by like Kaiichi's comments about her outfit. You can't see it, but my eyes are getting very wide. But yeah, I do like Shion. I like Mion more, I think, mainly because thinking about the ending of that and her trapped in that fucking situation. If it's her, I have a habit of just like being like, no, it's this, but like being set in my ways. But if it is her, God damn, what a rough fucking situation. But yeah, also knowing more about Rika, and this is another thing about like the questions. Why was Rika all banged up when we meet her outside the school? Like when we come across her, she's like sitting on the ground and she's completely like, she's like messed up. She like got in a fight or something. What the hell happened? Like, did fucking Shion come and beat the shit out of her and then ran away when Kaiichi started to come over? What the hell?
And actually, I kind of want to leverage off of that, and that actually reminds me of something that struck me, word choice, back like during the Watanagashi festival. There was a scene where Shion and Rika kind of get flirty with Keiichi, and Mion punches them all. And that scene struck me because it was Mion punching Rika, the shrine maiden of the festival that is happening right now, like before she goes out and does her chopping up of the futons thing. That just very interesting that she was driven to do something like that, to strike the shrine maiden physically. I mean, and granted, it was very much in slapstick mode when that happened, but then mentioning that Rika was roughed up later when Keiichi finds her behind the shed is an interesting contrast.
Yeah, I find it's very fun when moments like that happen, like the cartoony moments. Also, like, when characters are described as having steam coming out of their ears, like you can imagine that in like an anime like situation, like that, like a overplayed cartoon. But then I can also imagine the narrative requesting you to really kind of hone in and like with a microscope and kind of figure out all these mysteries, and just being like, so my theory for why the steam is coming out of Rika's hair is because just kind of losing my mind with that. That would be funny. And finally, I think this was good. There were high highs and low lows. As I said before, I think that this has so far the most memorable scene of, I mean, there are actually a bunch. The voice acting for Mion or Shion, whoever you want to think, the person trapped in the cell at the very end, her screaming was, that was really good, really effective, fucked up. Like all of
the
these
voice
things.
acting is just like, I cannot sing its praises highly enough. It is just,
it's great. It's like it's largely what makes it, you know, and telling people's inflections and how they're playing with each other. These are the same voice actors from the anime, right?
yep.
Yep, believe so.
Damn. Good shit. But yeah, you know, Kaiichi getting stabbed. Kaiichi seeing that crazy fucking demon come out from under the bed. Well, I guess it doesn't come out from under the bed in the visual novel. She's like behind him and then grabs his fucking neck or whatever. I forget exactly what happens. Oh man, so many scenes. So little time. All right. That's it for us. Onward and upward to the mixed bag, it seems, of Arc 3. So we're going to meet back soon to talk about Sutoko's question arc, aka Tataru Goroshi, curse-killing arc.
The one with the hardest difficulty, even.
Hardest difficulty. Shit.
The one where the curse gets killed.
Oh my god. Cursed killing. Oh, maybe the curse is the killing. Ah, my brain is inverting.
Oh,
Right.
one last kind of thing.
Okay.
That, like, this is a thought I have, and I feel like the flip side of this for the answer arcs is more relevant, but we'll get to that later. The thing I noticed about the naming conventions of the question arcs is that they're all about something that happens,
Oh.
like an element.
I thought you were
like a
going to
fundamental element to the mystery, like.
Okay. I thought you were going to say, like, oh, the first letter of them spells out Nicole is dead or some shit.
Well, the last character in all the arcs is she, which is a homophone for death.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're all in the very specific two kanji she format.
Some of them are puns that are impossible to translate.
Yeah. Oh man, as somebody like, so my notes for Higurashi, like I have like a file for Higurashi notes. It's just kind of a big mess. Like the bottom half of it is just all like the recent ones in Watanagashi Hen. I genuinely have like 40 different possible like arc names for various, you know, fanfics and inspired stuff and whatnot. Because this is just a thing I like doing.
It's fun. It's fun.
Just fun. Yeah, this is like Higurashi is a fun series to sink your teeth into, fan work wise. Even if it is incredibly hard once you realize just how much of a well-oiled machine this story is.
Yeah, and that's the main reason why I wanted to see what Ryakishi 07 could do with something like Silent Hill. And I said it on the stream, I'll say it again. You take out the really like weird fucking otaku anime bullshit that ogles, you know, underage kids. You have a narrative that I have always wanted for a Silent Hill game. Like, if Ryakishi shows up to Silent Hill with everything he's got, everything that, you know, we've seen from this, and supposedly Umineko, which I have no idea about that, then, I mean, y'all, we might be getting a Silent Hill game that's better than Silent Hill 2. Maybe.
I think you will love the 4-dimensional chest that is Umineko.
Yeah, I am. You know what? I think at this point, I'm probably gonna get a Forte on launch.
I hope to.
Absolutely.
I have to. After this, after even just the first chapter, I know I have to see what this person can do with a Silent Hill narrative. Mainly because it's the only one that looks fucking interesting at all. I only care about F. All the other ones I don't give a shit about. Like, I would have cared about a remake of fucking 2 if Bloober Team wasn't attached to it, but...
what was that other one that's... I want to say Annapurna's...
fucking... Townfall?
Yeah, very silly name, but I remember thinking that one was kind of cool too.
I need to play Observation. I need to play their other games. But
F is definitely the one on the top of my list, though. Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm worried about it for one simple reason. Konami announced my Dream Silent Hill game before, and they canceled it. So track record ain't good on this.
You know, you say that, and I was actually just thinking about that. I think.
I'm worried. I'm worried.
I might eat my words on this. We might get a better Silent Hills than Silent Hills could have been with Silent Hill F. Maybe.
I have no clue.
Kojima is Kojima and does Kojima things. This narrative, I gotta say, even with just text, no gameplay, is better than Metal Gear Solid. Like, it's better. It's constructed way better. Like, it's not playing in, well, it's playing in the anime tropes. But even Metal Gear Solid had those fucking tropes. You know, you think, you go back to, was it PSP? Was it
Peace Walker?
The Peace Walker thing where you go on a date with what's her name? The girl? Taz, yeah. So, like, we're still getting that shit with no matter what.
Yeah, I also like Metal Gear. And the world punishes me for liking Metal Gear by showing me the other parts of Metal Gear.
Yeah, it's a dynamic. What's up?
Yeah, I have a question about Forte.
Okay.
Remind me what the gameplay is supposed to be like?
That's the thing. That's the big question mark. We don't know. Okay. Supposedly, the Sakura, which is supposedly the demo for Silent Hill F, I don't. It definitely seems to be that is the case. No one really knows. Silent Hill F is supposed to be its own thing, but people have speculated that Silent Hill F might be a teaser trailer, like PT-esque game that will be released before the full version of F, which will be Silent Hill 5, which is what the F stands for. Speculation abounds. It seems like if we infer that the flower lady that we have seen leaked art for, and footage for, if that is supposed to be Silent Hill F, that stuff looked exactly like Resident Evil 7, or more 7 than 8, but definitely looked 7-esque. And if that is supposed to be the gameplay that the folks who are making Silent Hill F, if that's what we have to look forward to, I mean, I'm absolutely ready. Like, a first-person horror game with Ryukishi's writing, I could not smash the buy button quicker. Like, gimme that. But anyway, it's definitely more interesting than anything else. I'm interested purely for the story. You're right though. Like, the gameplay is an absolute giant question mark on this project. It could go south, I don't know. We're also forgetting Konami. They're involved.
That's my biggest worry.
Oh God, but yeah, but 25. I didn't mean to shame you for being a Metal Gear fan. I honestly,
I get it.
Like PT,
I deserve it. Don't worry.
PT and Silent Hill 2 are pretty, like, in terms of what PT did with just the time that it had, PT's like probably right under Silent Hill 2 for me. But the only knock against it being that it wasn't like a complete game and probably wouldn't work as a giant game. But like, for what it was,
I like Metal Gear.
And don't get me wrong, I absolutely would play, like, I'm playing Overdose. I'm there. Like, Kojima seems to do best with horror games, like, from what I've seen, or horror elements. I really like the Death Stranding horror stuff. And Kojima has a way of melding gameplay mechanics with core concepts of the game and the narrative. And I think that if those concepts and the features were horror, specific to horror, I think Overdose is a game to watch. Like I am there. That is another day one by. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah, all right. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you very much. We are going to end it here. We have been talking for just over 3 hours. So
Goodness gracious.
I'm sorry, like I always am.
I didn't even join on purpose. Like you sent me the invite to the server and I wanted to hop in just so I could like listen to the call in a quality that wasn't Twitch breaking every 15 seconds.
Sure.
And then it automatically put me into the call and I was suddenly too anxious to leave, so I was stuck here.
No, it's cool. Like I want to do more of this type of thing anyway, where yeah, I like interacting with y'all. I like talking. I like it's better than, trying to read chat out of the corner of my eye when I'm doing something. But yeah, I like this stuff, and I want to do more stuff like it. So in the future. So
yeah, I'm interested in being a part of this little community and sharing stuff and being part of the server and whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah, awesome. For those who don't know, you go to bobvids.com and you will click on the Discord link. You will get an invite to my brand new server, Discord server. I've rechanged it. I've messed around with some stuff. You can come on in there, say hi. It's not too crazy. I wanted to make it so that it wasn't like too daunting. But yes, swing on in, say hi. We're sharing music, a bunch of really good music's going on so far. But yeah, and that's it for us. Yeah, I've got a website. It's literally just a redirect to my link tree. But yes, I do. I did manage to snag that URL. And with that, we'll catch y'all later. Shout out to all my cicada heads out there. That's the name. We're sticking with it. People who
Buzz.
Yeah, there you go. All my cicada heads go buzz. What's that, 25?
I really wish I could make cicada noises.
Oh.
That could be like the big group sign off is just all cicada noises.
I can try and make the noise, but it's whistling. I don't think anybody wants to hear me whistle into the mic.
I don't think my mic would pick it up.
There, perfect.
Whoa.
Thank you.
There. All right, cicada sound off. There we go. Kind of sounds like birds. Anyway, so that's the thing. That's the next thing that we got to figure out. Is it the cicadas crying? Are the cicadas a clue? I need to know. I need answers. Give me the answers, Rikishi. I need them. And with that, we're out. Bye, everybody.